Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. While most people chase noise, you'll learn to master silence. In a world addicted to reaction, the one who stays composed wins. Every argument you walk away from, every emotion you refuse to feed, every silence you hold builds your power. This audiobook will teach you how to stay unshaken, unbothered, and unstoppable. Because calm is not passive.
You lose power the moment you react. Every time you take the bait, every time you let emotion dictate your response, you hand control to someone else. You think you're standing up for yourself. You think you're defending your pride. But what you're really doing is bleeding energy. Emotional control is power. And every time you react, you give that power away. You have to understand something fundamental. The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The calm one, the one who can pause, observe, and decide, is the one who truly rules. Think about it. A leader who panics in crisis loses his team. A parent who yells loses their child's respect. A man or woman who argues over every insult loses credibility. You don't earn strength by being loud. You earn strength by being composed. Real leadership, real self-mastery starts the moment you stop reacting. Because when you stop reacting, you start ruling. It's a mental shift, from emotion to awareness, from noise to clarity, from chaos to command. You have a choice every single time life provokes you. You can react like everyone else, impulsive, emotional, desperate to prove a point, or you can breathe, think, and act like someone who owns their emotions. That's the choice that defines winners. Every situation gives you that same fork in the road, reaction or response. One makes you weaker. One makes you stronger. When you react, you become predictable. You become easy to control. Anyone who can trigger you can control you. That's the truth. When you stay calm, you become unreadable, unshakable, untouchable. No one knows your next move because your emotions aren't doing the talking anymore. Your strategy is. That's the key. Let's talk about power. Real power doesn't need to announce itself. Real power doesn't rush. Real power doesn't prove. It observes, it plans, it decides. The world respects that kind of power. The kind that doesn't flinch. The kind that stays grounded while everyone else is losing their mind. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to react to prove you're strong. Your stillness already says everything. You've seen it before. The calm leader in a meeting when everyone else is panicking. The composed soldier in chaos who moves like time slowed down for him. The athlete who stays locked in when the crowd screams and the stakes are high. They all have one thing in common: control. They mastered it through repetition, through training their reactions, through refusing to let the world decide how they feel. That's your mission now. To train your reaction until calm becomes automatic. Start today. Start small. When someone cuts you off in traffic, don't react. When someone insults you online, don't respond. When life tries to provoke you, don't give it the satisfaction. Instead, pause, observe, smile if you have to, and walk away knowing You just won a silent war. That's not weakness. That's discipline. And discipline is power. Because here's the truth. Anyone can explode. Anyone can shout. Anyone can overreact. That's easy. But holding your ground when everything inside you wants to react, that's mastery. That's strength. That's the difference between being ruled by emotion and ruling through emotion. Remember this. You can't control the world. You can only control yourself. That's the line that separates amateurs from professionals. It's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's about control. So ask yourself, who really runs your life? Your emotions or your discipline? Do you respond with intention or do you react with impulse? Because one path builds your future, the other destroys it. Every argument you avoid builds your peace. Every silence you keep strengthens your mind. Every breath you take before responding earns you control. The one who stays calm stays in control. Say it again. The one who stays calm stays in control. Let that become your new mantra. You're not here to prove yourself. You're here to improve yourself. It's not about revenge. It's about restraint. It's not about dominance. It's about discipline. You don't need their approval. You don't need their reaction. You don't even need them to understand. You just need to stay centered. Because once you stop reacting, you start seeing. You start seeing people's intentions. You start seeing patterns. You start seeing opportunities hidden behind the noise. You rise above the chaos instead of drowning in it. And here's the paradox. When you stop reacting, you actually start influencing more. People trust those who don't lose control. They follow the ones who stay composed under fire. Because calm signals strength. It signals safety. It signals authority. Your calm becomes contagious. Your presence becomes grounding. Your silence starts to speak louder than your words ever could. That's when you shift from reacting to ruling. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their validation to stay silent. You don't need to respond to every challenge that comes your way. You choose your peace. You choose your focus. You choose your discipline. That's the key. When you finally understand that reacting is losing, you'll stop giving your power away so easily. You'll stop feeding chaos. You'll stop negotiating with distractions. Instead, you'll conserve your energy for the battles that matter. You'll spend your time building instead of defending. You'll move with strategy instead of emotion. That's how you rule your mind. That's how you rule your day. That's how you rule your life. From this chapter forward, make a vow. You will not react. You will not explain. You will not engage with noise. You will act with calm authority no matter what the world throws your way. Because calm isn't weakness. It's dominance. It's leadership. It's control. You've just taken your first step toward power, the power of emotional control. Now that you've learned how to stop reacting, it's time to go deeper. You've learned to pause before emotion. Next, you'll learn how to control that emotion, how to master it before it masters you. Chapter 2.
Your emotions are not the enemy. They're weapons, powerful ones. And like any weapon, if you don't learn to control it, it controls you. You can't remove emotion. You can't delete anger. You can't erase fear. You can't bury pain. But you can command it. You can direct it. You can use it to sharpen your focus instead of scatter your energy. That's the difference between the weak and the disciplined. The weak let emotion lead them. The disciplined use emotion to lead themselves. You have to understand this. Emotion is energy. Energy doesn't disappear. It transforms. And if you don't channel that energy consciously, it will express itself destructively. That's why people lash out. That's why they panic. That's why they say things they regret. Because they don't hold the trigger. They are the trigger. You have a choice. You can fire wildly in all directions and destroy everything around you. Or you can aim with precision, hold steady, and use your emotion as power. That's the key. Think about anger. Anger isn't evil. Anger is information. It tells you something isn't right. It tells you where your boundaries were crossed. It tells you what matters. But instead of listening to anger, most people obey it. They explode. They shout. They lose control. You can't afford that. You're not here to obey emotion. You're here to master it. So when anger rises, you pause. You breathe. You ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me? That's emotional control in action. That's power. Same with fear. Fear tells you where your edge is. It shows you the line between comfort and growth. Fear isn't weakness. It's the mind's alarm system saying, pay attention. The problem isn't fear. It's your reaction to fear. You freeze. You avoid. You retreat. But the disciplined mind does the opposite. It feels fear and still moves forward. It turns fear into fuel. It turns pressure into focus. That's mastery. You don't conquer emotion by fighting it. You conquer emotion by directing it. Imagine a soldier holding a weapon. He doesn't swing it wildly just because he's scared. He holds position. He steadies his breath. He waits for the right moment to act. That's what you must do with your emotions. Hold your position. Steady your breath. Wait. Because the space between emotion and reaction, that small pause, is where mastery is born. That's the exercise. That's the training. Pause before you speak. Pause before you send that message. Pause before you make that decision. That pause is everything. Control the space between stimulus and reaction. That's where freedom lives. That's where leadership lives. That's where power lives. Every time you pause, you strengthen your control muscle. Every time you pause, you choose response over reaction. Every time you pause, you prove to yourself that you run the mind, not the other way around. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their understanding to control yourself. You just need discipline. It's not about suppression. It's about direction. It's not about weakness. It's about awareness. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. Let's get practical. Start keeping score of your emotions. Notice when you feel triggered. Notice what people or situations make you lose control. Write it down. Track your patterns. Because awareness always comes before mastery. You can't fix what you refuse to face. You can't lead what you don't understand. That's why emotional control begins with observation. Don't run from emotion, observe it. Don't drown in it, decode it. Don't react to it, redirect it. That's how you turn emotion into a weapon. Here's the truth most people never learn. Emotion is not something to fear. It's something to train. Just like muscles, your emotional endurance grows through resistance. You build calm through chaos. You build patience through pressure. You build focus through frustration. Every emotional test life gives you is training. Every insult, every delay, every setback, it's sharpening your emotional edge. But only if you stop reacting and start learning. The key is control under pressure. That's what separates a calm mind from a chaotic one. That's what separates emotional strength from emotional weakness. You must learn to operate under emotion without being controlled by it. That's the entire game. The storm will come. The anger will come. The doubt will come. Let it, because you're not fighting the storm anymore. You're using it. You're turning it into fuel. Every time you stay composed when you want to explode, you're growing. Every time you breathe when you want to argue, you're evolving. Every time you act with discipline when emotion screams for reaction, you're winning. That's transformation. And here's the beautiful part. Once you master emotion, everything else becomes easier. Discipline becomes easier. Focus becomes easier. Patience becomes natural. Because the war inside you has ended. You're no longer wasting energy on battles that don't matter. You're not fighting yourself anymore. Now you're channeling yourself. You're using emotion as fuel for creation, not destruction. That's the key. Remember this forever. Emotion is not your weakness. Uncontrolled emotion is. Emotion is not chaos. It's power. Raw, untamed, and waiting for direction. So give it direction. Train it. Command it. Use it. That's what leaders do. That's what warriors do. That's what disciplined people do. They don't remove emotion. They refine it. They don't bury it. They build with it. That's how you stay in control while everyone else loses their balance. So the next time emotion rises, don't run from it. Welcome it. See it as your test, your training ground, your opportunity to practice calm under pressure. Because emotion will always be there. It's part of being human. But mastery is rare.
and mastery is yours for the taking. You don't need to destroy emotion to grow. You just need to own it. Emotion is energy. Energy is power. And power, when controlled, creates empires. So learn to hold the trigger. Learn to direct the energy. Learn to use emotion as your silent weapon. That's how you rise above the noise. That's how you become unshakable. That's how you turn chaos into control. You've learned to hold the trigger. You've learned that emotion is not your enemy. It's
Silence exposes truth. That's why weak people fear it. They can't stand to hear their own thoughts. They can't handle the weight of their own reflection. So they fill every quiet moment with noise, with talking, scrolling, gossiping, complaining, because silence reminds them of what they've been running from. But strong people, the calm, disciplined, dangerous ones, they do the opposite. They use silence. They sit in it. They study through it. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's intelligence. That's the key. In silence, you meet yourself, your fears, your doubts, your insecurities. You face the reality you've been avoiding. That's why most people never grow. They keep drowning that silence with distraction. They can't stop listening to noise, because noise hides the truth. But silence reveals everything. Here's the truth. If you can't handle silence, you'll never master control, because emotional control begins in quiet. Discipline begins in quiet. Focus begins in quiet. When you learn to be still, you stop being controlled by the external world. You stop reacting to every sound, every message, every insult. You start observing instead. Observation is power. That's the difference between reacting and ruling. The weak respond to noise. The strong read it, understand it, and plan around it. Think of the ancient warriors before battle. They didn't rush in screaming. They stood still. They breathed slowly. They waited. Stillness was their weapon. It sharpened their senses. It built awareness. It prepared the mind before the body moved. That's how you win. Not through panic, not through volume, but through control. Weak people confuse silence with weakness. They think if you don't respond immediately, you're afraid. They think if you don't argue, you're losing. They think if you don't speak, you don't care. But the truth is the opposite. The calm one is studying. The quiet one is calculating. The silent one is building an answer that will end the argument, not feed it. You don't need their permission to stay silent. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. You don't owe people your reaction. Your silence is not submission. Your silence is strategy. That's the key. Let's talk about practical silence. This isn't about sitting cross-legged on a mountain. This is about learning to pause before you respond. When someone insults you, stay silent. When someone misunderstands you, stay silent.
When chaos breaks out, stay silent and observe. That pause gives you control. That pause saves your energy. That pause exposes who's truly in charge, and it's not the loud one. Here's the reality. Loud people seek attention. Silent people command it. You ever notice how a calm person walks into a room and everyone looks? They don't need to announce themselves. Their stillness announces them. Their composure draws focus. Because confidence doesn't shout, it whispers and still gets heard. The world respects silence more than sound. You have a choice every day. You can feed the noise, or you can control the noise. You can talk to be understood, or you can act to be respected. Choose silence when others choose reaction. Choose stillness when others choose chaos. Choose composure when others choose panic. Because silence will always expose the difference between the emotional and the disciplined. You can measure a person's strength by how comfortable they are in quiet. Most people crumble when the conversation stops. They rush to fill the gap. They're terrified of what silence might reveal. But when you can sit in that gap and not flinch, you own the room. You control the pace. You control the energy. You control yourself. And when you control yourself, you control everything. Silence also creates mystery, and mystery is power. The less you say, the more people wonder what you're thinking. The less you react, the more unpredictable you become. And unpredictable people can't be manipulated. That's the advantage silence gives you. It protects your strategy. It hides your emotions. It blinds your enemies. Never forget, the quiet one always has the upper hand. Use silence as a weapon. Use it to listen. Use it to study. Use it to plan your next move. You learn more by listening than by talking. You grow more by reflecting than by reacting. You lead more by presence than by words. The most powerful people in history, the thinkers, the generals, the creators, all mastered silence, because silence gives birth to clarity, and clarity builds confidence. Let's be clear. Silence doesn't mean inaction. It means strategy. It means control. It means you're conserving energy for what matters. You're not wasting energy on explaining yourself. You're not trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You're not fighting battles that don't need to be fought. You're saving your energy for the mission. That's discipline. And discipline is strength. In your daily life, practice this. Speak less than you think. Listen more than you respond. And before every decision, sit in silence, even for 5 seconds. That small pause rewires your brain. It forces awareness. It creates control. Over time, that control becomes automatic. You stop blurting out. You stop over-explaining. You stop reacting emotionally. You move deliberately. You act intentionally. You live strategically. That's what silence builds. When you learn to be silent, you'll see things others can't. You'll notice patterns. You'll hear what's not being said. You'll sense tension before it breaks. That awareness makes you dangerous because you can now move before others even realize what's happening. That's what silence does. It turns you from reactive to proactive. It turns you from emotional to strategic. It turns you from average to exceptional. You don't need their permission to stay quiet. You don't need to justify your peace. You don't need to defend your stillness. Your silence is your superpower. Your stillness is your weapon. Your calm is your control. That's the key. The world will try to pull you back into the noise. It will try to provoke you, bait you, and drag you into reaction. But when you've built your foundation in silence, the noise can't move you. You've outgrown the need to respond. You've become immune to chaos. Because silence doesn't just protect your peace, it multiplies your power. So, stop fearing silence. Start using it. Sit with it until it stops feeling uncomfortable and starts feeling like home. Because silence is where discipline grows. Silence is
That's where you'll find your strength. You've learned the power of stillness. You've learned how silence separates the weak from the strong. Now it's time to master the next level of control. Your emotion. Anger feels powerful, but it's a trap. It promises control, but delivers chaos. It looks like strength, but it's weakness disguised as emotion. Anyone can explode. Anyone can yell. Anyone can lose control. But only the disciplined can hold fire without burning the room down. That's the key. When you speak through anger, you give power away. You hand control of your emotions and your outcomes to whoever triggered you. You trade precision for noise. You trade respect for regret. That's what uncontrolled anger does. It makes you reactive. It makes you sloppy. It makes you predictable. And predictable people lose. You have to understand something. Anger is emotional debt. Every time you lash out, you pay interest on your own peace. Every outburst costs you focus, time, energy, and clarity. It's like handing your opponent the blueprint to your weaknesses. They now know exactly how to move you, exactly how to provoke you, exactly how to control you. That's why emotional control isn't just discipline. It's strategy. It's dominance through composure. Controlled silence is louder than uncontrolled rage. Say that again to yourself. Controlled silence is louder than uncontrolled rage. Because silence unsettles people more than shouting ever will. Anger is predictable. Silence is mysterious. Anger screams insecurity. Silence radiates confidence. When you stay calm, people can't read you. They can't manipulate you. They can't use your emotions against you. That's the advantage of control. That's the power of restraint. Anger makes you feel powerful in the moment, but powerless afterward. You say things you didn't mean. You do things you can't undo. You break things you spent years building: relationships, trust, respect, reputation. All because you wanted to win a moment. But moments aren't worth your mission. That's the key. You have a choice. Every time anger rises, you have a choice. You can react or you can respond. You can speak or you can observe. You can lose control or you can claim it. Weak people react instantly. Strong people pause, assess, and strike with precision. Your pause doesn't mean you're afraid. It means you're calculating. Your silence doesn't mean surrender. It means control. You don't need their permission to be calm. Think about it. When has rage ever solved a problem? It only escalates. It only feeds the chaos. It only strengthens your enemy. But calm? Calm disarms. Calm redirects. Calm ends battles before they begin. Because calm is clarity, and clarity wins wars. The most dangerous people in the world aren't the loudest, they're the quietest. Because their emotions don't lead them, their discipline does. They don't explode, they execute. They don't react, they respond. That's mastery. That's what you must build. Here's what you must understand. Anger isn't your enemy. Lack of control is. You'll always feel anger. You're human. But the goal is to master it before it masters you. You can't stop the emotion from arriving, but you can stop it from leading. That's what emotional control really means. Feeling everything, but following nothing. When anger shows up, observe it, name it, then decide what to do with it. Don't suppress it, redirect it. Turn that emotion into energy. Use it to fuel focus, not destruction. When someone tries to provoke you, realize what's happening. They want a reaction. They want chaos. They want you to lose control so they can win control. So do the opposite. Stay calm. Smile if you must. Let your silence answer. That's how you dominate without saying a word. Because controlled silence is louder than uncontrolled rage. Anger loves to rush you. It pushes you to act without thinking, to speak before understanding, to destroy before deciding. So slow down, breathe, buy yourself time. When you feel that heat rising, stop. Ask yourself, what's the outcome I want? If yelling doesn't get you closer, don't yell. If reaction doesn't serve the mission, don't react. You have a choice, every time. Let's get practical. Here's what control looks like in real life. Someone insults you? Don't explain, don't defend, don't argue. Just look at them, stay quiet, and let their words die in your silence. Someone betrays you? Don't rage, don't chase. Detach, learn, upgrade your boundaries. Someone disrespects you publicly. Don't engage in noise. Win privately. That's how strong people move. In silence, with strategy, with results, not reactions. When you can stand in front of chaos and remain unshaken, that's strength. When you can face provocation and stay composed, that's mastery. When you can turn anger into clarity, that's transformation. It's not about rage, it's about restraint. It's not about emotion, it's about execution. It's not about being right, it's about staying in control. That's the key. You must train for this daily, not once, not occasionally, daily. Because control isn't built in crisis, it's built in routine. Start with small things: traffic, delays, criticism, inconvenience. Each moment of irritation is training. Each test of patience is a chance to grow discipline. Every time you stay calm when you could explode, you build power. Every time you stay silent when you could shout,
You build dominance. That's how control compounds. Remember, anger may feel like fuel, but it burns too fast. It's unstable. It fades. Discipline doesn't. Discipline burns slow. Discipline endures. Discipline builds. That's what separates you from everyone else. Your ability to channel fire into focus. When the world expects you to explode, stay calm. When they expect you to react, observe. When they expect you to fight, strategize. Because your silence is strength. Your calm is command. Your composure is your weapon. You don't need to prove your power through anger. You prove it through control. You prove it through patience. You prove it through results that speak louder than your emotions ever could. So stop letting anger speak for you. Start letting your discipline speak instead. Replace rage with awareness. Replace reaction with precision. Replace noise with silence. That's how you win, not once, but always. Controlled silence is louder than uncontrolled rage. Always remember that. Write it down. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Because the day you master that, nothing can shake you. No insult, no betrayal, no chaos, no loss. You'll be unmovable, unshakable, untouchable. That's what real strength looks like. You've learned how to control your anger. You've learned that silence and restraint are the true markers of strength. Now it's time to master the next evolution of power, the kind that doesn't react or restrain, but radiates presence.
People test your emotions to measure your strength. They push, they provoke, they observe. Not to see who you are, but to see what controls you. And when you react, you give them proof. Proof of weakness, proof of instability, proof that they can move you like a puppet. You cannot let that happen. Not anymore. The moment you react emotionally, you hand over power. You show your hand. You reveal your triggers. And from that moment on, they own your peace. That's the trap. That's the game, and most people never see it. They think speaking louder means power. They think defending themselves means strength. But in reality, silence, composure, and stillness speak louder than any reaction ever could. That's the key. Understand this. People don't respect loud emotions. They respect controlled energy. They respect the person who refuses to break. Because calm under pressure is terrifying to those who feed on chaos. You have a choice. Every time you're tested, you have a choice. You can perform for their entertainment, or you can stand still in your power. Refusing to react is not weakness. It's strategy. It's mental warfare. Think about the greatest athletes, the greatest soldiers, the most composed leaders. What do they have in common? They never flinch. They don't show panic. They don't show anger. They don't show fear. They respond, but never react. That's how they hold power even when chaos erupts. When the soldier stays calm under fire, he saves lives. When the athlete keeps focus under pressure, he wins games. When the boss refuses to rise to provocation, he commands respect without saying a word. That's real authority. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need approval. It simply is. Here's the truth most people never understand. Power is quiet. Reaction is noise. The world is full of noise, emotional, chaotic noise. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to prove something. But the moment you stop reacting, you separate yourself from the crowd. You become untouchable. because nothing rattles you, nothing drags you down to their level. You hold your composure, you hold your command, you hold your peace. That's the key. People will always test you. The weak test the strong because they need validation. They poke, they provoke, they want to see you lose it because your reaction feeds their ego. Your silence starves it. That's why you must train your calm like a weapon. Because in this world, emotional control isn't just peace, it's power. When you don't react, you instantly shift the balance. The one who stays calm owns the room. Always. You don't have to prove anything. You don't need to explain yourself to people who want to misunderstand you. You don't need to defend yourself to people who don't respect you. Your energy is currency. Don't spend it proving your worth. Let your silence do the talking. Let your results do the explaining. You don't need their permission. You need your discipline. Think about a boss who's tested daily by his team. Some people try to provoke him. They want to see if he'll explode, because an angry boss is an exposed boss. But the one who stays calm, he owns the room. He speaks slowly, clearly, deliberately. Every word hits harder because it's not emotional, it's intentional. That's what earns respect. Not volume, not emotion, not ego, but precision. Or picture an athlete in the final seconds of the game. Crowd screaming, opponents taunting, pressure at its peak. The weak react emotionally. They crumble, they rush, they lose clarity. But the disciplined one breathes. He narrows his focus. He silences the noise. He executes. That's emotional control in motion. That's mastery under fire. Because the calm mind sees clearly when others panic. You have to train this like a muscle. It doesn't come overnight. It takes repetition. It takes awareness. It takes constant testing. The next time someone tests you, don't respond instantly. Pause. Breathe. Let them reveal themselves first. Watch their energy collapse when they don't get the reaction they want. Watch how silence disarms them. Watch how control confuses them. That's how you win without lifting a finger. It's not about pretending emotions don't exist. It's about mastering the gap between what happens to you and how you respond. That gap is everything. Between what happens to you and how you respond lies your freedom. That's where strength is built. That's where peace is protected. That's where warriors are made. You have a choice. You always do. Don't match people's energy. Set the tone. Don't react to their chaos. Command the room with your composure. When they yell, speak calmly. When they provoke, observe. When they insult, smile. Because that's how you show control, not through dominance, but through discipline. That's the difference between power and impulse. Impulse burns fast. Discipline endures. Most people are emotional slaves. They are moved by moods, circumstances, and opinions. They are easy to predict, easy to manipulate, easy to defeat. But the one who stays centered, unshakable. He can't be baited. He can't be provoked. He can't be controlled. Because his peace is not on the market. That's the standard you must live by. That's the power of not reacting. When you stop reacting, you start observing. And when you start observing, you start understanding. You begin to see patterns. You begin to predict behavior. You begin to lead with clarity, not emotion. The calm man is the one who sees everything. He moves second, but always finishes first. Because power doesn't need to move fast. Power moves deliberately. That's the key. You want respect? Control your emotions. You want power? Master your reactions. You want peace? Detach from chaos. People test your emotions to measure your strength. Never give them proof of weakness. When you refuse to react, you instantly shift the balance. You take control of the room, the situation, the outcome. That's how real strength works. So, next time someone tries to provoke you, don't take the bait. Don't explain. Don't react. Don't perform. Breathe. Observe. And let silence speak for you. Because silence is power, and composure is command. The one who stays calm always stays in control. You've now learned to hold your energy when tested, to win by composure, not chaos. Now it's time to go deeper, to learn how every emotional reaction wastes energy that could build your future. Every moment of panic steals from your potential. Every distraction, every outburst, every impulsive move, it's all a tax you pay on your dreams. That's the truth. That's the cost of emotional chaos. You think it's harmless to feel it out, to react naturally, to just vent. But every time you let emotion lead, you lose ground. You lose power. You lose momentum. Because chaos consumes what discipline builds. You have to decide what kind of person you want to be. The one who panics or the one who progresses? The one who reacts or the one who directs? The one who complains about pressure or the one who performs under it? That's the choice. And it's made every single day. Panic is easy. Progress is earned. Panic feels urgent, but produces nothing. Progress feels slow, but builds everything. That's the key. Let's get real. Your emotions want control. They want the driver's seat. They want to dictate your reactions, your words, your habits. But emotions are passengers, not leaders. You can acknowledge them, but you don't obey them. You feel them, but you don't feed them. Because the moment you start feeding emotion, you starve discipline. And without discipline, everything falls apart. Routine, order, self-respect. Those are your shields against chaos. Those are your weapons against panic. You can't control the world, but you can control your structure. You can't predict every outcome, but you can predict your effort. You can't eliminate uncertainty, but you can eliminate disorder. And that's how you build inner peace, through outer structure. You don't wait for calm. You create it through consistency. When your mind feels scattered, return to your routine. That's your anchor. When your emotions scream for attention, return to your order. That's your ground. When the world demands reaction, return to your discipline. That's your command. You don't need their permission to be centered. You just need your systems. Because systems protect you when emotions betray you. Look at any elite performer, a soldier, an athlete, a leader. They don't rely on mood. They rely on method. They don't ask, do I feel like it today? They ask, what's the mission? That's how they stay consistent when everyone else collapses under emotion. Because emotion is unstable, routine is reliable. Emotion reacts, routine responds. Emotion consumes, routine creates. That's the discipline you need to build.
Let's break it down. When panic hits, your brain narrows, your breathing quickens, your focus collapses. You make short-term choices that destroy long-term goals. So here's the rule. Slow everything down. When panic comes, don't move faster, move slower. Don't react, observe. Don't flail, focus. Because clarity always hides beneath chaos. You just have to stand still long enough to find it. The disciplined don't fear pressure, they use it. Pressure is not the enemy, it's the forge. That's where you're refined. That's where composure is tested. That's where character is born. But you have to stay in the fire without losing your form. That's emotional control. That's real power. Every panic moment is a test. The question isn't, will you survive it? The question is, can you stay steady inside it? That's the test of greatness. Panic destroys potential because it makes you chase urgency instead of direction. You start reacting to noise instead of purpose. You start doing 100 things halfway instead of one thing with mastery. That's how most people live, constantly moving, rarely progressing. Because movement is not progress. Emotion is not focus. Progress means execution. Progress means intention. Progress means saying, no matter how I feel, I will still move forward. That's the mindset that builds unshakable people. Here's a truth most don't want to hear. You will never feel ready. You will never feel calm all the time. You will never feel in the mood. That's why discipline exists, to lead you when feelings fail you. You don't wait for inspiration. You work your system. You show up. You execute. Because consistency outlasts emotion every single time. That's the key. And here's what no one tells you. Panic and progress can't coexist. You can't think clearly while you're reacting emotionally. You can't build while you're breaking down. You can't move forward while you're fixated on fear. So stop feeding panic. Starve it through action. Because every step forward is a rejection of chaos. Choose progress over panic. Say it again. Choose progress over panic. Let that be your mantra. Let that be your method. Because when others break under emotion, you'll build under pressure. When others lose their way in noise, you'll rise through clarity. When others panic, you will progress. And that's how you separate the average from the exceptional. You've now learned how to convert emotional chaos into composure and panic into progress. Now it's time to master the next level, not just
Emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's freedom. When you detach, no one controls your peace. No one manipulates your focus. No one decides how you feel, when you act, or what you think. That's what emotional detachment really means. It's not that you stop caring, it's that you stop being controlled. You've spent years reacting to people, reacting to problems, reacting to pain. Every reaction costs energy. Every overthinking moment drains power. Every emotional outburst pulls you off your path. You can't build a strong life while being emotionally pulled in every direction. Detachment is how you reclaim your control. It's how you rise above the noise. It's how you stop playing defense and start playing offense. Let's make one thing clear. Detachment is not about ignoring life, it's about mastering it. It's not apathy, it's awareness. When you detach, you still feel, but you don't drown in feelings. You still care, but you don't cling. You still love, but you don't lose yourself. That's the key. You can't control emotions, but you can control response. And that's where all your power lives, in the space between emotion and reaction. That's where discipline begins. You have a choice. Every time emotion rises, you can react or you can observe. Reacting means you're ruled by impulse. Observing means you're ruled by strategy. That's what emotional detachment gives you, the power to respond strategically, not emotionally. It's not about cutting people off. It's not about becoming distant or numb. It's about seeing clearly, acting deliberately, and protecting your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. Think about it. Every time you let anger speak for you, you lose control. Every time you let fear make your choices, you lose freedom. Every time you let others decide your worth, you lose power. You're not here to react. You're here to lead your mind. Detachment is leadership of self. It's emotional self-command. When you master detachment, people no longer have emotional access to you. They can speak, but you decide what enters. They can act, but you decide what affects you. That's how strong people move, calm, centered, unshaken. Here's a truth most won't accept. The world rewards emotional stability, not emotional intensity. People follow the calm. They trust the composed. They respect those who respond, not react. That's why emotional detachment is not weakness. It's influence. When you're detached, you're not desperate for validation. You're not chasing attention. You're not begging for peace. You create it. Because peace isn't something you find. Peace is something you build. Let's talk technique. Here's how you train detachment in real life. Step 1. Observe before you act. When something triggers you, pause. Take one breath. Don't reply. Don't defend. Don't react. Watch your emotion like an outsider. Observation breaks emotional momentum. That's how you regain control. Step 2. Question the thought. Ask yourself, is this reaction helping me or hurting me? If it drains your focus, it doesn't deserve your attention. If it breaks your peace, it doesn't deserve your energy. That's the filter. Detach through perspective. View life as observation, not participation. You're not inside every storm. You're watching the weather pass. You don't absorb every insult. You study it, then move on. You don't respond to every provocation. You choose when, how, and if it deserves a response. That's mastery. People will test you when you start detaching. They'll call you cold. They'll call you distant. They'll call you changed. They're right. You have changed. You stopped performing for their comfort. You stopped bleeding energy for approval. You stopped confusing emotional chaos with connection. That's the difference between reacting and ruling. You don't need their permission to be at peace. You don't need their understanding to be focused. You only need self-control, and that's what detachment gives you. Let's go deeper. When you detach, you stop chasing closure. You stop expecting fairness. You stop fighting for validation. Because all three are traps. They keep you emotionally dependent on others. You don't need closure. You need clarity. You don't need fairness. You need focus. You don't need validation. You need vision. That's how emotionally strong people think. They replace attachment with alignment. They stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That's detachment in action. Here's what you'll notice once you practice it long enough. You'll speak less, but mean more. You'll care deeply, but without chaos. You'll connect, but without clinging. You'll stop reacting to everything that doesn't serve you. And that's real power. Quiet, calm, controlled power. You might be wondering, but doesn't detachment make you robotic? No, it makes you resilient. The world confuses emotional maturity with emotional coldness. They're not the same. Emotional maturity says, I feel everything, but I choose what deserves expression. Emotional immaturity says, I feel something, so I must act on it. One leads to peace. The other leads to chaos. You have to choose which one you'll live by. Understand this. Your emotions are messages, not masters. They're signals, not commands. You can listen without obeying. You can feel without falling. You can care without collapsing. That's what separates the reactive from the resilient. That's what makes detachment a superpower. You are not your feelings. You are the observer of your feelings. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker behind them. When you truly internalize that truth, the world can't shake you anymore. Insults lose weight. Rejection loses sting. Fear loses control. Because you're no longer fighting storms, you're watching clouds pass, and you realize none of it defines you. The emotionally reactive life is a cage. You get pulled into every drama. You get triggered by every word. You get exhausted by every setback. But the emotionally detached life, that's freedom. You move on faster. You forgive easier. You focus deeper. You stay unbothered longer. That's how calm becomes your default. That's how peace becomes your power. Every great transformation begins with detachment, because only when you step back can you see clearly. Only when you stop reacting can you start directing. Only when you detach from chaos can you connect to purpose. Emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's not isolation, it's independence. It's not shutting down, it's leveling up. That's the key. So practice it, train it, build it daily. When emotion rises, observe it. When chaos calls, stay centered. When people test your peace, protect it. Because the one who masters detachment masters themselves. And when you master yourself, nothing outside of you has power anymore. You've learned how to protect your peace and rule your emotions. Now it's time to learn how to rule your environment. Because
Stillness is power. The world misunderstands that. They think stillness is weakness. They think silence means surrender. They think calm means you've stopped caring. They couldn't be more wrong. Stillness isn't idleness, it's readiness. It's control in motion. It's focus under fire. It's the mark of a mind that refuses to be dragged by chaos. That's the key. The most dangerous people in history were not the loud ones. They were not the ones shouting their power. They were calm thinkers, strategic observers, quiet movers. They didn't announce their next step. They calculated it. They didn't rush. They waited for precision. They didn't react. They positioned. That's what made them unstoppable. Because the world is loud, but the world belongs to the ones who can stay quiet long enough to see clearly. You have to understand this. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the mastery of movement. It's the space between impulse and action. It's the pause that separates the amateur from the master. The undisciplined act first and think later. The disciplined think first and then act once with precision. That's why stillness is the foundation of power, because every great move begins with a pause. You have a choice. Every day, every situation, every confrontation. You can react, or you can be still. You can move from emotion or from command. That's the difference between losing your peace and protecting your power. When you practice stillness, you start seeing what others miss. You notice patterns. you sense motives. You detect weakness, not in others, but in yourself. Because stillness makes you self-aware. It forces you to face what's actually going on inside you. That's why most people run from it. They can't handle silence, because silence shows them their chaos. Weak people fear stillness, because when the noise stops, they're left with themselves, and that's the one battle they've been avoiding. Strong people embrace stillness, because when the noise stops, they finally hear truth. They hear instinct. They hear the voice of discipline. That's the voice you've been ignoring. Look around. Most people live in constant motion, scrolling, talking, rushing, always chasing the next distraction. Because stillness feels uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where growth begins. When you stop running, your mind starts working. When you stop reacting, your vision becomes clear. When you stop filling silence with noise, clarity shows up. That's the key. Stillness reveals truth. Truth reveals direction. Direction creates power. Let me tell you something powerful. You can win entire battles without saying a single word. Because silence unnerves the undisciplined. It confuses the reactive. It forces them to show their hand while you remain unreadable. You ever noticed how the calm one always seems to have the upper hand? It's because they understand this. Calm is control. Stillness is dominance. When you're still, you're not frozen. You're waiting. You're studying. You're preparing. That's the discipline of stillness. Deliberate waiting, not passive drifting. Here's how you train it. Step 1. Stop before you speak. Every time emotion spikes, stop. Don't fill the air with noise. Don't explain, don't defend, don't justify. Silence disarms chaos. When you speak from emotion, you hand over power. When you wait, you reclaim it. Step 2. Breathe before you decide. Before every choice, inhale deeply. Slow your heart rate. Feel your body calm. That pause resets your thinking. It's not spiritual fluff. It's biological control. Your nervous system obeys the rhythm you create. Step 3. Act like you already own the outcome. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. When you move with stillness, you move with certainty. Your energy says, I'm not chasing, I'm choosing. And that energy changes everything. Stillness is a weapon. It sharpens your awareness. It slows down time. It lets you see what others can't see because they're too busy reacting. Stillness allows you to hear intent behind words. It lets you notice emotion behind behavior. It helps you separate what's real from what's noise. That's how leaders move. That's how warriors prepare. That's how the disciplined survive. Because when chaos hits, everyone panics, except the one who trained to stay still. The undisciplined crumble when things go wrong. They panic. They speak too soon. They decide too fast. The disciplined, they wait. They observe. They plan. Then they strike once. Clean, decisive, final. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing only what matters. That's the kind of control most people never experience. Remember this. Stillness isn't laziness. It's not sitting back and hoping. It's calculated patience. It's knowing that not every problem deserves your immediate response. It's understanding that not every emotion deserves expression. It's accepting that not every noise deserves attention. That's how you conserve energy. That's how you build precision. Because power leaks through reaction. Control grows through restraint. You want to know who wins? Not the one who moves first, the one who moves last with accuracy. Everyone can react. Few can wait. Everyone can speak. Few can listen. Everyone can rush. Few can rest in readiness. That's what separates power from panic. Stillness is a mark of mastery. Because it takes strength to sit in uncertainty and not fold. It takes confidence to hold silence while others scramble. It takes trust in yourself, your preparation, your vision. You don't earn that overnight. You train it daily. So train stillness like a muscle. Each morning, sit in silence before the world wakes up. Breathe. Observe your thoughts. Don't fight them, just watch. That's you reclaiming control of your inner space. Throughout the day, when something irritates you, pause. Before you send that text, before you speak that emotion. Wait, breathe, respond only when your mind is clear. That's you building discipline in real time. Before every big decision, stop. Let the noise pass. Then act like you already own the outcome. That's confidence built from control. You don't need more noise. You need more clarity. You don't need more speed. You need more accuracy. You don't need more movement. You need more stillness. Because when you master stillness, you master presence. And presence is power. The calm one leads, the reactive one follows. Be the calm one. So remember this mantra. Before every choice, stop, breathe, then act like you already own the outcome. That's how you anchor control. That's how you build trust. That's how you turn silence into strategy. Stillness is not waiting. Stillness is readiness.
You've learned to harness stillness. Now it's time to channel that power into action. Because stillness without motion is wasted potential. The next step is movement.
Pressure doesn't build character. Pressure reveals it. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. And when the heat comes, when the crisis hits, your mind either collapses or commands. It all depends on what you've built when things were calm. That's the key. Mental toughness isn't born in chaos. It's built in calm. It's trained in silence. It's earned in the small, controlled battles of daily life. Everyone wants to stay composed in the storm, but few are willing to train in the drizzle. You have a choice. You can live emotionally, reacting to every problem, every frustration, every inconvenience. Or you can train mentally. You can train your mind to stay cold under fire. You see, the storm doesn't make you emotional. It just exposes the emotion that was already inside you. Crisis doesn't break you. It reveals what's untrained. That's why the calm person always wins.
because their mind has already rehearsed control before the crisis arrived. They've already practiced staying centered when others spin out. They've already conditioned their brain to slow down when everything else speeds up. That's what this chapter is about. Mental training before the storm. Because once the fire starts, it's too late to build discipline. Let's talk about the simulation principle, the most practical rule of emotional mastery. It's simple. Train calm in small frustrations so you're ready for big storms. The world gives you hundreds of micro-tests every day. Traffic, arguments, delays, disrespect. Each one is a simulation. Each one is a chance to strengthen your composure. The weak waste those chances. They explode over the little things and wonder why they collapse during the big ones. The strong use those moments like weight training. Every irritation becomes a rep. Every frustration becomes practice. That's the mindset shift. You don't lose your temper. You train your control. You have to treat every irritation like an opportunity. The rude comment? Training. The long line? Training. The delay? Training. The insult? Training. Each one is a test of your command. Each one is a small rehearsal for chaos. If you can't stay calm in a 5-minute delay, how will you lead through a 5-month crisis? If you can't handle disrespect from a stranger, how will you handle betrayal from someone you trust? That's why composure isn't optional. It's essential. Here's your mantra. Say it until it's automatic. Calm first, solution second, emotion never. That's the order of strength. That's the sequence that separates leaders from followers, professionals from amateurs, the composed from the chaotic. Because emotion clouds judgment. Emotion turns problems into drama, and drama destroys progress. You don't solve problems by feeling more. You solve them by thinking clearer. That's the key. Real-world example. A firefighter doesn't panic when flames rise because they've trained the drill. Their body already knows the moves. Their mind already knows the order. They don't feel, they execute. You have to train the same way. You don't hope to be calm. You rehearse calm. You don't wish for composure. You build it. Start today. Start small. When you drop something, breathe. When you get interrupted, pause. When you feel anger, delay your response by 5 seconds. That 5-second pause rewires your brain. It teaches control. It teaches presence. And if you repeat it daily, that pause becomes your default. That's how you stay cold under fire. People ask, how do I become mentally tough? Here's the answer. Stop reacting to everything. It's not about perfection. It's about pattern. Each time you catch yourself reacting and choose to stay calm instead, you're reprogramming your system. You're teaching your mind that peace is the command state. That's the training. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting, but it's everything. Let's make it practical. There are 3 drills for staying calm under fire. Drill 1. The emotional audit. Every time something irritates you, ask, is this worth my peace? 9 times out of 10, it's not. That question alone breaks your automatic reaction. It gives your rational mind a chance to lead. Drill 2. The controlled breath. Breathe in through the nose for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4.
That's the rhythm of reset. You're not breathing just for calm. You're breathing for control. You're slowing your nervous system, anchoring your power back to center. Drill 3. The delayed response. Never respond in the moment of emotion. Wait until your heart rate drops. Then decide. That pause is discipline in action. It's the mental equivalent of a warrior lowering their weapon until they can see the target clearly. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their approval to breathe. You don't owe anyone an instant reaction. You own your timing, and timing is power. The greatest mistake people make in crisis is speed. They think acting fast means acting strong. It doesn't. Acting fast without clarity is just emotional chaos disguised as confidence. Acting slow, with control, that's real strength. So remember, when chaos comes, slow down. When the fire rises, breathe deeper. When everyone's reacting, observe. Stillness under pressure isn't weakness, it's strategy. That's the key. Here's what separates the trained from the untrained. The untrained panic and call it passion. The trained stay calm and call it preparation. The untrained get loud to feel powerful. The trained stay quiet because they already are. The untrained wait for emotions to fade. The trained control them on command. You can be that trained mind. It starts with practice, not perfection. Every great fighter, soldier, leader, and surgeon trains the same way. Repetition, simulation, calm under pressure. Because pressure is predictable. It will come, and when it does, your training takes over. So make that training your daily life. Treat the next inconvenience like it's preparation. Treat the next frustration like it's conditioning. Treat every emotional trigger like a test. You're not avoiding fire. You're learning to breathe inside it. That's mental strength. That's composure. You have a choice. You can be like everyone else, loud, reactive, fragile. Or you can be the one who stands still while the world burns around them. You can be the anchor, the calm in chaos, the storm within the storm. That's who you're becoming. Because this isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally disciplined. It's not about ignoring fear. It's about mastering focus. It's not about being perfect. It's about being prepared. That's the difference between the untrained mind and the cold mind. So remember the mantra. Calm first, solution second, emotion never. Say it again. Calm first, solution second, emotion never. That's your armor. That's your formula. That's your strength.
But there's another level beyond calm. It's peace through detachment. Because even calm minds can still be caught by attachment. And attachment is the silent thief of emotional freedom. At the highest level of power, noise disappears. You move with precision. You move with peace. And nothing, no argument, no insult, no storm, can pull you out of control. That's not weakness. That's command. That's the discipline of silence. Most people think silence is emptiness. They think silence means weakness. They think silence means surrender. They're wrong. Silence is a weapon. Silence is strategy. Silence is control. When you can stay silent in chaos, you have already won. You win not by fighting harder, but by reacting less. That's the key.
Let's get this straight. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to answer every accusation. You don't have to defend your worth to people who will never understand your value. That's wasted energy. That's emotional debt. And discipline means protecting your energy like currency. The weak react. The disciplined observe. You have a choice: to chase noise or to command quiet, to prove yourself or to preserve yourself. You can't do both. The discipline of silence means this: you stop explaining, you stop over-talking, you stop performing for approval. You stop letting every opinion shape your state of mind. You don't need their permission to be at peace. You don't need their validation to feel secure. You don't need their understanding to move forward. Because peace is not something you wait for, it's something you protect. That's the mindset shift. Every reaction costs you energy. Every argument drains your focus. Every time you speak just to be heard, you lose strength. So learn to save your words. Use them with precision, because every word has weight, and discipline means not wasting any of them. You have to treat your voice like a weapon, drawn only when necessary, used only with purpose. That's how the powerful operate. The powerful don't yell, they don't chase, they don't explain. They observe, they wait, they act with precision. That's why they win. Understand this: silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care selectively. It doesn't mean you're passive. It means you're intentional. It doesn't mean you're emotionless. It means you're emotionally trained. That's the discipline. Because reacting gives power to others. Responding calmly, selectively, strategically keeps power within you. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering response. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. You have to stop trying to control perception. You can't manage how people see you. You can only master how you carry yourself. And nothing carries more weight than silence. The loudest person in the room is always the weakest. The calmest person is always the most prepared. That's not philosophy. That's psychology. People fear what they can't predict, and silence makes you unpredictable. They can't manipulate what doesn't react. They can't provoke what doesn't respond. That's the power you're building. So how do you practice the discipline of silence? You practice by restraint. Restraint when you want to argue. Restraint when you want to prove. Restraint when your ego wants revenge. You breathe instead of bite. You wait instead of react. You think instead of explode. Every second you delay reaction is a second you strengthen discipline. Because silence isn't the absence of action, it's the presence of control. That's the key. Let's talk about behavior, real-world training for silence. Step 1. Stop explaining. You don't owe justifications to people committed to misunderstanding you. When someone demands justification, give them none. You owe clarity to yourself, not to the crowd. Step 2. Listen longer. Most people hear to reply. Discipline means hearing to understand. Listen twice before you speak once. Your silence will expose truth faster than your words ever could. Step 3. Withdraw from noise. Every environment has volume. Social media, gossip, distractions. Silence is not found, it's created. Turn the noise down so your clarity can rise. These are not small habits, they are power practices. Every moment of silence builds awareness. Every controlled response builds dominance. Every withheld word sharpens your edge. You see, silence is not the absence of emotion. It's emotion under control. The strongest people still feel, but they decide what deserves expression.
You can feel anger. You can feel disappointment. You can feel pressure, but you choose how and if you release it. That's power. And the more you practice silence, the more your energy condenses. Your presence grows heavier. People start to feel your strength without you saying a word. Because silence speaks louder than noise. It carries weight. It carries mystery. It carries authority. You don't need to be seen shouting when your energy already commands attention. That's the discipline. You win not by reacting, but by reducing reaction. Every situation wants to pull something out of you: attention, anger, explanation. The world tests you daily to see what you'll give away. So train this response. Pause, observe, say less. Silence is your audit. If it doesn't deserve words, it doesn't deserve space in your mind. That's how you rise above noise. That's how you become untouchable. At the highest level of mental strength, silence becomes your default state. Not because you don't have anything to say, but because you've learned that not everything deserves your voice. Noise is cheap. Stillness is expensive. Anyone can speak. Few can stay silent. You have a choice. Do you want to be heard once or respected forever? That's the choice the disciplined make. Let others be loud. Let them chase validation. Let them argue for recognition. You stay still. You stay calm. You stay focused. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's readiness. It's not retreat. It's alignment. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. You're not losing your voice. You're mastering its value. You win not by fighting harder, but by reacting less. You win not by proving louder, but by moving quieter. You win not by speaking constantly, but by speaking consciously. That's the discipline of silence. And once you master it, you become untouchable, because no one can pull you into their chaos when you've built peace inside your mind. At the highest level of power, noise disappears. You move with precision, you move with peace, and you move with purpose. That's real dominance. That's emotional mastery. That's the discipline of silence. You've built calm under pressure. You've learned to move in silence. Now it's time to understand the final stage of inner mastery. Because silence gives you power.
Calm is not what you find, it's what you build. It's forged every time you pause instead of panic, every time you walk away instead of argue, every time you breathe instead of break. The calm person controls the room. The calm mind controls the outcome. The calm spirit controls the world. Never forget, your silence is strategy, your patience is power, and your composure is your greatest weapon. From this moment on, speak less, react slower, think deeper. Be the calm in every storm, and watch how fast the world starts to follow your lead. Because in the end,